Hello darlings, welcome to my channel Me and Places. I'm Paulina and this is my first video that is mental health related, so I'm super excited to do that. Today I want to talk about mental health healing process, specifically about how damn hard it can be. The goals of this video is not to discourage anybody from going through a healing process, but to give maybe an idea of obstacles that are part of a healing journey so that people don't get discouraged when they actually encounter them, and also to let you know that if you are going through some challenges, you are not alone. So let's support each other. So mental health healing is not an easy process, it's a work on yourself. All kind of work is hard on different levels. And I think the main component of this self-work is your own motivation, your own decision to go through it. And on my experience, sometimes it takes people to get into really deep pit to get the motivation to actually change something in their lives. Sometimes it's not that deep of a pit. People are maybe more aware of how and where to ask for help before things turn really bad, which is a good thing. But on my experience in my profession, for example, in many cases, no matter how much tools we provide, it's up to a person themselves to actually make the change. And that requires motivation, and that requires your own choice to go through this self-work process. So in my experience, when you feel anxious and depressed so much that the struggle through self-work seems like a less of a struggle, that's when you are ready for your healing journey. So I'm here to share what makes my healing process difficult and what exactly is hard for me. At my work, I notice that people face very different kind of challenges. So if you face some challenges I did not come up with, but they are important for you to share, please do so. I will really appreciate that. So my first point is realizing how your issues dominated your life for so freaking long. So when I recognize that, hey, this pattern that is not beneficial for me anymore is something I had with me all these previous years, and that had impact on all my relationships, all my life choices, the ways in which I communicate with my loved ones, and frankly, it was really hurtful for me and other people. And at that moment, I cannot stop fantasizing about how cool it would be if I worked on this issue earlier, how all these years would go in that case. And this thought can pull you into anxious or depressive thoughts even more. So the comforting thought for me with this issue is that everything that happened before logically led to this moment where I'm able to work through these issues. It could not go faster. It went exactly the way it could go. Because in reality, the healing journey, it takes time. And it takes many mistakes on the way to actually get you to the point where you're like, enough. Now, the mistakes don't feel like part of a healing journey at the moment they happen. But now that I look back, I can see how they were kind of necessary steps to get where I am now. I kind of imagine it being a ladder with these multiple steps. And they are necessary to walk through to get where I am now, where I actually have tools to deal with problems, where I actually have motivation for that, and when I'm actually ready to do this, I'm in resource. I think we are too quick to judge ourselves about things we didn't do or mistakes we made, and in this kind of perspective, we easily forget the whole hard journey we made to be where we are now. My second issue are the reoccurring symptoms. So when you feel like you have already dealt with something and after years it comes back and you're like, what the hell? Because logically thinking it should be easier. You already have tools to deal with it. You're already more prepared, you know how it goes, you have been through it once, so you know it's possible to get through. But the hardest part, what strikes me the hardest, is just accepting that here we go again. Here I am again battling a thing I thought I won for good. And I believe that the core of this issue for me is maybe very goal-oriented type of thinking. Thinking, here is an issue, I solve it and then it's gone. Kind of A to B point linear process of healing. But mental health issues are not linear. They spear and they curve, and sometimes they go away and sometimes they come back, and they might come back harder than before. So logically, if you kicked their butt one time, they might kick your butt next time. And it is really natural to feel helplessness and frustration when you encounter this, the reoccurring symptom of something you thought you already battled. So my ways of dealing with this issue is changing my perspective, because I realized that my perspective was somewhat black and white. It's like, here is a problem, I solve it, mission complete. But it's just not how things work in mental health. If I think of that in a way that anxiety is a natural way for my body and mind to tell me that something is wrong, then it's more of a message I have to decode. So if I concentrate on getting rid of the symptom, I will be really freaking disappointed when it comes back. But if I concentrate on getting tools to deal with it, then it feels like something more beneficial. Then I actually can live in peace. I'm thinking of one conversation I had in a mountain hut in Tatra Mountains. So I met a guy who said a really interesting thing about mental health healing. He said, I think it is like brushing your teeth. So it is a thing you gotta do and embrace as part of your everyday routine to take care of yourself. And I think he is really right. I think this is actually like brushing your teeth. So it's a toolbox you're getting to know how to take care of yourself every day, not one problem you solve once and it's gone. It's not a problem, it's a way of your body to react to specific things that already developed for one reason or another. So accepting that, decoding the message and getting tools to deal with the problem behind it, those are things that help me. But not the kind of black and white problem-solving thinking. That did not get me far. So, third challenge I encountered on my healing journey is that the shitty patterns I developed throughout the years are freaking stubborn. They are so stubborn, it takes a lot of self-work and time to change them. It's like, for me, working on issues, going to therapy, getting new tools, learning about my challenges. It kind of makes me feel pumped up on these issues, like now I know, now I can do it. And then you go through a situation you went before with your shitty patterns, and now you know all these better tools to deal with it, and then automatically you do the old thing, the shitty thing. And I'm like, no way, I'm so freaking disappointed in myself right now. So what helps me in this issue is, again, changing the perspective, just kind of realizing and accepting that developing these really bad patterns that really don't serve me anymore and are not beneficial took so many years, and this journey developing them started in a very early childhood. So to develop new ones, obviously it's not enough to just learn about them. It also needs a lot of practice so that it becomes an automatic thing you do. So if the ways in which I always thought and worked and communicated were under the dome of so many symptoms and patterns that are not beneficial and not healthy, just learning about better ones is not enough. You also got to practice it. It's like my mind is already pumped on these new things that are beneficial and healthy and nice, but your body still needs the experience of practice to get that part of your routine. And I think for me, just this realization that learning new things is not kind of enough, you also need to practice them. It's kind of a bit hard to accept, because there is a dissonance between how fast I actually learn and how excited I become about new things and using them, and how long time it actually takes for my body and mind to embrace those new things and to get used to them. And this part was a big challenge for me, and still is, and probably will always be. And my next challenge kind of derives from this one, is the time. Just taking time for healing is something I was struggling with, because again, my nature is like, let's fight, let's go, let's do, I'm ready. It's kind of a ninja mode with all the tools I got. And the reality is not just like that. It's not just one battle you fight, it's many battles. And also it's acceptance, it's resting, it's taking care of yourself, it's reflecting, it's trying new ways of communicating until they become your patterns. All of those components are important for growth and development. And for me, especially in the beginning, it was a bit of a sad thing to notice how I need to make more time to take care of myself, which is time away from the hobbies that I like or spending time with people that I love. But in the end, I will not enjoy the hobbies if I'm preoccupied with my symptoms or with something I'm struggling with. And I will not enjoy the time with my loved ones. In fact, it will be probably hard for them to hang out with me if I am preoccupied with those things. So it's actually beneficial for everybody that I take time for myself and I take time to heal, and I actually organize deliberately time for that. Okay, next challenge, fifth one, is stigma and criticism that you get when you decide to be open about your struggles. So the moment you decide to be open about your mental health issues, unfortunately, there are so many things you're gonna hear that are kind of making you feel worse. So some of the things I heard while managing my anxiety are, you probably just didn't sleep well. Sleep good and it will be over. You know, it's probably the magnetic storms. I also felt kind of bad lately. Just stop worrying. You should not experience anxiety at all because there are so many people that have worse lives than you. I even heard that anxiety is a made-up thing and it doesn't exist at all. Wish my psychiatrist knew that, right? But above all, my personal favorite was, just tell me what you're struggling with. What are you worried about? And we're gonna fix it. And I was like, sure, it takes years with a therapist to find these things out because I don't know myself. But I'll just put it in one sentence for you right now. Now, I don't think that people who said these things said them with bad intentions. I'm actually pretty sure they did not. Things like, it's just about sleeping well, or the magnetic storms are frankly said by people who I know love me. I think it might be just easier to accept that the reason is not sleeping well or magnetic storms. I think it's easier to accept than the fact that I might actually have a mental health issue, because then for my loved ones it also means accepting that they will also face the consequences of that because they are in touch with me, they are in contact with me, so this will affect them as well, and this is not something we are all ready to dive into any given moment. I also think when you are yourself struggling with something, it can be very hard to create this safe space where you can listen for another person's struggle. Until you help yourself, I think it's really hard to help anybody. So maybe jealousy and striving for help can get on the way of accepting that a person who maybe comes from better premises can also suffer. But for example, if you want to have a house, to have a car, to have a pretty wife, to have kids, and this is your idea of happy life, and you maybe don't have any of those things, and you are in the age where you imagined that you would have all of those things, and somebody who actually have all those things is struggling with depression, for example, I can see how it can be hard to actually give them space to tell about their feelings. All you are thinking is that, hey, you have all those things that would make my life better, how come you're struggling? But you not having what you want doesn't cancel anybody else's experience. And also, mental health issues do not choose based on how much money you have or what kind of things you have or how you organize your life. These are more deep issues coming from usually further time away from now. It really takes time and self-work and therapeutical help to find out why they are happening. So I think saying stupid things like that is actually a very human thing to do, and it's something we all do at one point or another. But it doesn't justify doing so. When you say things like that, they are belittling and they are kind of canceling for the feelings of the other person, which is not supportive at all. Mental health issues make you go through stigma, and that brings you feelings of shame. And you experience that even without any kind of comments. Any kind of mental health issue, unfortunately, because of how things were for many centuries and really bad mental health education we had, many other cultural and social related things, we developed shame over having different kind of mental health issues. We developed shame over asking for help, and there is some kind of stigma that comes with it. For example, believing that a person who is psychotic is always dangerous, so it can be hard for you to get a job if you have some psychotic diagnosis, or to get a flat. And these are very basic needs. I think receiving any kind of diagnosis, you need to make some kind of work through this shame, through this stigma. And when you hear any of those shitty comments, it kind of draws you back in the progress of dealing with shame. It kind of brings you back to the shame. And shame, I think, is on the way of dealing with the issues themselves. It kind of covers everything and you can't really get through, and you don't even see what you gotta do to move forward. It's a really, really confusing feeling in this kind of moments. I think it's really frustrating that we don't really have proper tools to support each other in a good way. And I think nothing really gets you ready to face the stigma. When I was studying social work in mental health, I wrote a work about stigma. And I thought theoretically this makes me prepared if I will ever have to deal with it. No, it doesn't, because nothing gets you prepared to go through feelings you will encounter on the way. I still think at this point that being open about mental health issues in my case is more beneficial than damaging. So now looking above all the challenges, I notice that kind of the coping mechanisms for me are the knowledge, the changing my perspective, and also speaking up. Now let's talk about you. Did you encounter any challenges on your healing journey that you would like to share? How did you cope with them? Is there anything you want to give as a hint for other people that are struggling with the same things? Let's keep this comment section a safe place to share these kind of things. I really wish to start a conversation around mental health healing with this video. I also wrote a blog post about the same things I told you in this video, so if you want to maybe read it or share it with somebody, it's in the description below. Thank you, darlings, for listening and watching, and let's stay curious. Bye!